This is a Hewlett-Packard personal computer, model Phoenix SE, also called model a6755y. This computer worked fine. I probably haven't turned it on in a year or two, but I've turned it on recently. It does nothing. Hit the power button. Nothing. It doesn't come to post. That is power on self-test. Does not display on the screen. Nothing displays on the screen. I don't get a beep. I don't get anything at all. The machine is completely dead. This motherboard, it has an AM2 Plus CPU socket and an AMD Phenom processor, DDR2 memory. The fans spin up, but nothing else works. Now I've gone through the usual troubleshooting. I tried replacing the RAM memory, a different power supply. I tried disconnecting the peripherals. I checked the CMOS battery. I tried the CMOS reset jumpers. Nothing has worked. The one thing I did notice that might be important, one of the motherboard capacitors is swollen right there. The top of that capacitor is domed upwards, which means that capacitor's gone bad. I wonder if there's a chance that that is causing the problem. In order to find out, we're going to have to pull the motherboard and replace that capacitor. Now we have the motherboard out of the case, and on closer inspection, here is that swollen capacitor. Turns out there's a second one right here. Now, these two blowing capacitors, they're both 1000 microfarad, 6.3 volts. I just happen to have a couple of those on hand. Let's have a look at these capacitors with the capacitance meter. Now, I'm going to start with the good one. 1000 microfarads and 0.18 ohms. Okay, that's a good one. Okay, here's a bad one. Okay, it's not even detecting a capacitor, so this capacitor is completely open. Okay, we have our new capacitors in place. Nice new one here, and a nice new one there. Okay, we'll put the board back in and see if it works. Now we have the motherboard put back into the case with the new capacitors. Now that we have the repaired motherboard put back into the case, we have it attached to the AC current and a computer monitor. We will go ahead and press the power button and see what happens. Yes. The computer has booted up, and I have entered the setup screen. As we can all see, the computer now boots up. It goes to post, and it will boot up into Windows 10. So it appears that we have a fix. So if you have a computer that fails, particularly a computer built in the 2000s, that is, between 2000 and 2009, always check for bad capacitors. A very common problem in any consumer electronics built in that time period, particularly things coming from Taiwan and China. It was known as the capacitor plague. So bad capacitors are very common. They're easy to spot. The tops of the capacitors will be domed upward, that is curved and sometimes leaking a little bit of material out. If you see a domed capacitor, that capacitor is always bad. In this case, it was bad enough to keep the computer from booting. The other important lesson here is those capacitors can go bad even if the computer isn't in use. This computer worked fine the last time I turned it on, and then I parked it for a year or two and then brought it out again, and in that time period, two of the capacitors had gone bad. So we have managed to repair this computer and brought it back to life for the cost of 2 electrolytic capacitors. Okay, hopefully you'll be as lucky.